Today's fellow fasting foodie friend has a history of intermittent fasting since 2016. She is a 49-year-old wife, grandma, and mother, and lives in Nova Scotia, Canada, where she does human resources work. Today's guest is Tressa Haney. Welcome, Tressa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So my first question always is, are you currently fasting or are you in your eating window?
I'm currently fasting. It's only 10:30 in the morning here, so I am not a morning eater, that's for sure.
Neither am I. And you mentioned that you just traveled in. So does travel change your eating windows at all?
It did.
Yeah.
It did. I was definitely more relaxed. So I let myself eat in a bit of a longer window, but then I started to clean it up at the end because I started to feel like, oh, doesn't feel good. And I just want to fast longer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun ability to decide you want to give yourself a break, not that you're punishing yourself for what you previously did. It's like you recognize the difference of feeling good.
Yeah. And I think when most people, I mean, I'm sure you encounter this, is they're like, how can you fast for so long? But when you stop fasting and you open your window longer, it actually doesn't feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Feels worse. It's fun. You feel like a kid or Christmas in the first day. But then after that, you're like, yeah, that's not so great. So yeah, I tightened it up again. So by the end of it, I was doing my 18 hours and trying to keep it into a 4 or 5 hour window of eating. Yeah.
Is 18 hours your goal each day or each fast?
Yes, I try and I aim for a bottom line of 18 hours. It's usually between 18 and 20.
Okay. Very similar to mine.
Yeah. And probably because I had been watching you on YouTube a lot and,
Okay.
I like to try what other people are doing. Because I have a bit of FOMO, so I fear of missing out. So I'm like, oh, I'll do that too. So.
Yeah, I'm very much aligned. I'm a FOMO person. I don't want to, as it comes to foods, see someone eat something that I feel like is off limits. I don't want to miss out on that. And the funny thing is, you would think that not eating most of the day that would increase, but I found that my FOMO when it comes to food is so much better because anything's possible in my eating window.
Yeah.
Do you find the same thing as a FOMO person?
I do. Although I used to, when I first started, fast quite differently.
Okay.
And I fasted and I was usually eating keto, to be honest. And now I sort of took a break over COVID and gained some weight and all that. But when I got back into it, I was like, well, I can kind of eat whatever I want. And I realized that's actually not the case. And age has a lot to do with it for me. I think that because I have been fasting for so long, it's been like 7 or 8 years now, that I realize what I eat in my eating window does impact me. And as every 5-year increment, I realize it doesn't work quite as well. Like you do have to tweak I do. Anyways, speaking for myself, I have to tweak as I've gotten older and certainly gotten older in the menopause window frame of life for sure.
This video is sponsored by Element. Element is an electrolyte brand that I take on a near daily basis. I love to use the raw, unflavored, and longer fast. I mix it with water, coffee, or iced tea, and then I love to have their fruity flavors during my eating window. One of my most frequently asked questions is, what do I like to mix the flavors with? And I'm going to tell you my most favorite. I absolutely love mixing a fruity, bubbly water, so lime is the one I use the most, with watermelon Element. Any fruit combination will do, but this is my personal favorite. It's delicious, it's fruity, and it only gives me items that I need and nothing I don't. 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams magnesium. No fillers, no sugar, no junk. That delicious drink combination helps me to stay hydrated and fueled and feel good during my fast and my eating window. Right now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single-serve packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors or to share Element with a salty friend. Get yours at drinkelement.com/fastingfoodie. That's DRINKLMNT.com/fastingfoodie. Thank you so much to Element for sponsoring this video.
So I think I've been eating kind of whatever I wanted, and now I'm the kids are back to school today. It feels like, I always think that back to school feels like New Year, not actually January 1st. So I like to do something. So I'll probably tighten it up and do some less carb, probably, maybe not full keto.
Okay. I was actually going to ask, do you still incorporate keto as part of your eating pattern?
When I first started, so if I go back to 2015, 2016, I had used Ideal Protein. I don't know if you're familiar with that program. And it's basically a ketogenic, but very restrictive. And in 2015, I had lost about 25 or 27 pounds using that method with my husband. He lost like 60 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, in the same time period almost. So I know, right? And then, so I lost that weight, and we're a military family. So we were getting ready to move, and we changed provinces. And as we were moving, I had phoned a Ideal Protein clinic in Ottawa, the city that we were moving to, for my Canadian friends that know the country, and asked, do they have any foods? Can I just come in and buy some? Because they actually sell foods. And so that I didn't want to gain a lot of weight while we were moving and on the road, because we were on the road for a couple of days. And I chatted with this beautiful woman. And at the end of the conversation, I said, I've taken the program. By any chance, are you hiring coaches to do weight loss? And she's like, actually, I am. Let's have a coffee when you get here. So I ended up working for her for a few years as a weight loss coach. But I had already lost weight by the time I had arrived. And that's when I sort of came into understanding what intermittent fasting was, because I was kind of trying to research how to maintain my weight without having to eat weight loss products, for lack of a better word. And so I was eating keto and intermittent fasting. And I had always, even if I had gotten off track with keto and intermittent fasting, I just pulled it back if I noticed any changes in my body. So I wasn't really strict intermittent fasting all the time. Okay. But it was a big part of my life and my husband's. We both, we just felt good time restricting.
Yeah.
And you're always fasting, really. So, even when I wasn't fasting, we were still fasting. We still would push the limits of what most people would think would be normal, of getting out and eating breakfast right away. We just didn't do things like that. So, we definitely just had different habits.
Yeah.
But then we moved, 2 more times, and COVID happened, and not getting out as much and working from home. And in 2022, I ended up, over the year of 2022, in the first few months of 2023, I gained 25 pounds back again, which I was not happy about. And so I started Googling, of course, intermittent fasting, back to my normal way. I knew it worked. So I got back into that, and I just thought, I'm always good at, if I watch things on YouTube a lot, then I get back into it, whether it's keto or intermittent fasting. I just sort of start streaming that through my brain constantly. And then I just start implementing. And that's where I found you, actually, around that time of this year. Yeah. And then I just started intermittent fasting. So I think it was around May, and on Monday, September 4th, I did my 100th consecutive fast, mostly 18 hours, a few times, not mostly this last week when I was in Nashville. But, yeah. And so, and it's easy.
Yeah. Did your husband, did he take a break from fasting? Is he getting back on board? Has he joined you with that, or is this a solo?
No. Yeah. I think he is FOMO too. I started fasting. He's like, well, you're not going to do that if I'm not going to, I'm doing it too. We were not clean fasters though.
Okay. Are you now?
I am.
Okay. Can you talk about that difference and how it feels both ways, maybe?
Sure. So back in 2016, I didn't really know anything about clean fasting. It wasn't really a thing, and so there was lots of talk about, well, you can do up to 50 calories. That doesn't break your fast. And that made sense to me at the time. But now when I think about it, it completely doesn't. And so I used to have milk in my coffee. And I used to drink Mio. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the
drink squirt thing.
Yeah, it's a squirt, with sucralose. So I would have that during my fast to keep me going. And it worked fine. Like I maintained my weight and all that. I didn't really notice anything. But then and I tried to do black coffee because there was talk about black coffee even back in that time frame, but I just couldn't do it. I didn't like it. And I was like, who cares? And I didn't really have weight to lose. So there was no like incentive for me in a way. So, but that was fine. And so then when I restarted back in May of 2023, I thought, well, I'm going to give the black coffee thing a go. And I thought, I hated it last time. I just hated it. And I did it. And I thought, it's not so bad. So and it made me think of a toddler. Like I have 3 kids. I've dealt with 3 toddler eaters. It's like you give them broccoli one day, they can't eat it or they'll die. But then a month later you give it to them and they love it. So it's just like, I just thought like, yeah, I'm a toddler. So I started, just drinking the black coffee. And now in my eating window, sometimes I put milk in my coffee and I'm like, that's not very good. So,
isn't it funny?
Yeah. So now I don't even have coffee with milk in my eating window. And I don't drink a lot of coffee in my eating window because I have a lot outside of it. So
yeah, I do find the same thing though, that I drink what I like to drink outside while I'm fasting. It tends to be what I lean towards in my eating window because you spend so much more of your time in the fasted state that you're just used to that. So I used to love a hot latte and I used to make them in the morning, flavors and cream and, everything yummy. I can't do it anymore. It actually really upsets my stomach. And just the thought of them, because of how much they make my stomach hurt, it almost makes my stomach churn. And I'm like, man, I wouldn't have believed that before I was a faster because I know that they taste delicious, but I just can't even. Now I still love a really good iced coffee, but I rarely have those still because it's not what I go towards.
And your taste change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like your taste buds just change and they change with age and they change with eating differences. And so you evolve and change. So yeah, I just don't even drink milk in my coffee anymore. So we hardly even buy milk anymore. It's just weird.
Do you find it easier to get through the fast, or it sounds like you weren't ever struggling to get through the fast to begin with?
Oh, I did. I cheated all the time before, but I didn't have like I said, like without the sort of, it was a different mindset for me because I wasn't in it to lose weight. I have fibromyalgia, so my body hurt a lot. So that's what the keto thing really was for me, and not eating sugar and things like that. So I wanted to be able to not be stiff and sore all the time. And so I ate keto in my eating window, but I really didn't care too much about what I like having the milk in my coffee. But now that I've changed and I only have water, I have my soda stream. I don't have it carbonated right now, but I usually drink. This is my treat after what other people say is lunch. I have one of these usually around 1:00, but it's carbonated. So it feels like a super treat. And, I look forward to it. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I couldn't even barely palate it before, but now I love it. And I don't crave food for sure. And sometimes the only time is in my cycle. There are times when I might open my window a little earlier just because I'm having a mentally hard time with it. And it might be like a half hour early. And sometimes I just talk myself out of it, but it's usually around a hormonal shift.
Yeah.
And I just think to myself, well, okay, like you have hormones. So, okay, do it today and not tomorrow. Like, it's okay. Like,
you know what? That's exactly, I can tell it's almost like 2 days before my period actually starts. I break my fast at like 18 hours, 1 second. And it used to really bother me because I do often get about 22 hours. Even if 18 is my goal, I almost always can easily get 20 to 22 hours. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm a woman. I come by it naturally. It happens every month. And at this point, it doesn't surprise me. And it also doesn't disappoint me. I am hungrier before my period. Like it happens like clockwork. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, your body just needs something. So yeah. And like you, now that I think about it too, like I do sometimes break my fast a little bit early, but sometimes it's, right at the 18 hour, like I'm just like hanging on to 18 hours, like get here.
Yeah.
But, most of the time it's easier to get to 20 or whatever it is that I'm getting to. And if I'm busy, sometimes I think, oh, and too many times I've thought, I just won't bother eating today. I'll just, and I'm like, you can't do that every day. So like, it's weird to other people for sure. Cause I'm like, how can you do that? But when you know, if you know, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and probably it would have been weird to you, 2015 you, because I know if I saw myself from the past, I'd be like, who is that Jackie and what did you do with her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's all mindset, right? And so I know that because I'm actually a mindset coach as well. And I do a lot of emotional intelligence coaching at work and things like that. And it's mindset of like setting these parameters for yourself and just sticking to them. So I have always used the Zero app. And so when you were using it, I was like, oh, that's great. Cause I love that one. And I have an Apple Watch too. So for me, once I click, even if I want to keep eating, I just say, no, start fasting. And then once I click that start fasting, like I don't break that rule. And, I love to hit, save fast. So like that to me feels like the bell has gone off. It's time to eat. And then when I hit the save or start fasting, I don't break that.
That is, so, I don't know what it is, because don't tell me I can't eat a donut, because I'll eat a dozen. But I have the rules of my time. It's so much easier for me to live within those rules than food rules. And I don't know why there's a difference to me, but I'm the same way. I like starting and stopping my timer, and having the freedom on both ends is it's great for my mindset. Do you think, as a mindset coach, do you have any thoughts on why eating whatever you want can be liberating for people? As far as like, I don't have rules. I don't not eat certain foods, but I also know I eat way less of them than I did when I was always dieting.
Right. The one thing I like about the delay, don't deny mantra is that's a great mindset tool. When I used to coach people losing weight that had lost significant amounts of weight, and they really struggled with people saying things to them and having to defend themselves. And I think that when you get into the mindset of not restricting yourself, you're also defending yourself to yourself. So you're like, well, because we feel guilty about like, oh my gosh, I just ate a donut. Like, great. Now I'm ruined. That the whole week is gone, But when you say delay, don't deny, you're like, okay, I'm delaying this. I'm not denying myself. I can have it, just not right now. So I used to always encourage people to have a mantra of like, have a one-liner that you've already pre-thought. So when somebody says, oh, you're eating keto, that's not healthy, you can say, yeah, okay, blah, 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 and whatever your one-liner is. And I think the delay, don't deny is a great one-liner for yourself to say, it's okay. I'm doing well. I'm not having it right now, but I'm having it later. And I'm still going to be okay later. And I know that because I've done 100 consecutive fasts and I'm still okay. So it's just it's also an experience piece too. And when you do it, and then the great thing about people like you or like me posting on social media and Jen Stevens and all the other people is that there is evidence out there that, this does work. Right. So, I just think the mindset is that fill your ears with positive people that are doing well, and listen to podcasts, watch YouTube, find the people that you can follow and trust, and then set the parameters for yourself. And I like having parameters. I like having the Apple Watch. I know I don't want to promote Apple and go buy an Apple Watch, but it's great. And it's great to have an app, and it's great to decide. I always open with protein.
Okay.
But I wasn't before. I was like binge eating before. I was like, my window's open. But now I open all the protein. Foods. Yeah, because if I start with protein, I don't binge eat. Because my mindset is like, I just want food, right? I just want treats. I have a sweet tooth. So I have a sweet at the end of my eating window. And that closes it because I I think that I deserve that.
Yeah.
I need salad because I'll get constipated. Like you learn all these things and you start tweaking it to be like all of the ways that you need to support your own body. And it's just, you don't feel bad about it because you're like, okay, well, I've decided all this for myself, and you feel confident.
Yeah.
And then you can defend yourself to other people because there's nothing to not defend. You feel good. You're losing weight. Your body works good. I'm not in pain. My fibromyalgia is not there. Well, it's there, but it's managed. And, all of the other things. So, and there's not much to deny about it because you can go to the doctor and get your blood work done and all the things. You see the scale. And I actually haven't lost that much weight in the last 100 days, but my watch strap has to be pulled 2 holes, and I can see my ribs and underneath my rib cage more. My collarbones are sticking out. All of the telltale signs that stuff is shifting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really showing up on the scale too much, only about 6 pounds in the last 100 days. And that's why I think measuring is a great tool as well, although I didn't do it. Didn't take my own advice. So, I'm going to do it now because I want to see the results. But and I realize that the scale is not going down as much as I'd like it to. So I am going to clean it up with taking some carbs out.
Okay.
Now that school has changed, now school's back in. It's New Year's for me.
Well, and to back it up just a little bit, one thing that I think is really important, and this, but others might not at the beginning, is eating what you want and not having food rules doesn't mean you don't take into consideration that you feel better with protein. It doesn't mean that you don't take into consideration that you need the salad to not be constipated. Like all of that, those good decisions can be part of your no food rules. That's still you making your best choices. And I think when people hear, I eat what I want in my eating window. Well, what I want is the protein and the salad, and I want to feel good, and I don't want the latte because it upsets my stomach. Like all of that can still be part of your decision making without rules. It's not donuts all day, every day. Yes. And I think it's awesome to honor your body with the choices that you make.
And to set the example for the people around you, because and people should realize this. I've been weight loss coaching for a while, and my husband and I had both lost weight starting in 2015. People are watching you, whether you like it or not. And even if you're not online. And so making good choices and being okay and being confident about it, actually you're inspiring other people. And it's mostly the quiet people that will never say anything to you.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, they'll say, I watched what you were doing and I lost 20 pounds, and then that's a non-scale victory right there.
One of my absolute favorite, and now I fully know that she fasts, and I hope to have her on the podcast one day, is I was at my daughter's school and I helped serve this breakfast to their entire class, and it was before a big state testing, and the teacher was like, "Why aren't you eating? There's so much good food." And I told her, "I'm fasting." And I almost had a little bit of reservation because I didn't know her on a level where she knew my eating patterns, but I don't know. I'm thinking that was maybe April. In the summer, she told me, "By the way, I've been fasting and I've lost this much weight." And it was from that one little conversation. And again, you don't know who's paying attention, who's listening. And I was almost embarrassed to tell her that I was fasting just because it didn't seem like the setting where I wanted to have that conversation in my daughter's 4th grade classroom. But now she's been fasting for almost a couple of years now, and you just don't know what seeds you're setting or who's watching your example. And I think that's a great point.
Also, just to bring it back into the coaching pieces, I do a lot of manifestation coaching and things like that. And it's all about that, just what you said. It's planting seeds and the harvest comes. So if you're just starting fasting and you're thinking, this is terrible, this is hard, I'm going to die before I actually put a piece of food in, I'm starved to death. Just remember that you're planting these seeds and it takes time and you have to, wait it out. You don't plant a pumpkin seed and have a pumpkin the next day. You plant a pumpkin seed and you watch it grow, and 3 months later, you're carving a jack-o'-lantern, so have faith in yourself. As everyone says, trust the process. That's old news, but it's true. And just keep going and do it every day and clock your fast. And if you don't have a good fast, then you still fasted. You
Yeah,
just have a
and you
better
learn,
fast tomorrow.
and you learn from it. There are still days, I'm almost 1,200 fasts in. There are days in my
Wow.
eating window where I feel crappy at the end of it. But guess what? That's a learning tool. I
Yeah.
don't do it and beat myself up and say, well, fasting no longer works for me. I say, wow, I feel pretty crappy. I don't want tomorrow's eating window to feel like this. So I make decisions to feel differently.
Me too. Back in June of 2023, I had a hysterectomy, and I went to the hospital, and of course they're like, you have to fast the night before. I had to stay overnight. And so you fast the night before. I go in the morning. They're like, have you fasted? I'm like, yes, since 7:00 last night. They're like, oh, okay. But like usually people eat, like the fear of like, oh my gosh, I have to not eat from midnight until whatever time the next day. They're like eating right up till midnight, And so, but then I actually felt good the next day after my surgery, and they brought me this dinner that to me wasn't window worthy. It was like apple juice, and it was just a bunch of sugary, like it was Jello. It was supposed to be like a clear diet, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, I just had surgery. I am not putting all that sugar and junk in my body, and I'm not hungry. So I just stuck with water until the next morning. And then the nurse came in and she's like, what did you have for supper last night? And I said, well, I just continued fasting because I thought it felt better for me. And she's like, ooh, that's a long time. But she didn't say much after that. And so when I went for my post-op 8 weeks later, the doctor's like, well, you can have hormone therapy replacement. I still have ovaries, although it might be too much information, but, and he said, if you start to feel yucky about menopause and stuff. And I said, well, actually, I think fasting, I do intermittent fasting, and that's a pretty good thing to maintain your hormones. And he's like, oh, tell me all about it. And he wanted to know. I sat there in my post-op for a half an hour educating the doctor about this. And he's a gynecologist, right? And I was just like, yeah. And I said, I didn't take hardly any of the medication after surgery. I didn't need it. I felt fantastic. And that might have been just me personally, but I had a dental surgery while I was fasting one time. I fasted for 72 hours and I had a dental surgery, and it healed like that. So, autophagy is a wonder drug, or a wonder cleanup, I guess. And the more you talk about it, the more people understand. And I just think it benefits everybody. And so now my gynecologist was thinking about fasting. I'll have to go back and ask him at some point. Well, I don't want to see him again, but yeah.
So I've talked to lots of medical professionals. Same thing. You incidentally bring it up, and then they just want information. And then one of my favorites was I had my tonsils out, and the doctor told me, take this medication, blah blah blah, as part of the process, but you have to take it as part of your eating. And this doctor's actually quite overweight, so when I told him I was fasting and asked him if I could not take the medicine with food, if I could try it on an empty stomach, because often that's what it is. You're going to get nauseous is what the fear is. I said, can I try it? And if I can tolerate it? And he's like, oh, well, when you get over that fad and blah, blah, blah. Like, he was kind of giving me a hard time. And I was like, dude, I've been doing this for 2 years. And he goes, oh, well, maybe it's not a fad for you. And then he was interested and more receptive to talking about it. But he just blew it off at first. And I was kind of offended, but I thought, well, maybe I'm planting a seed, and not that, he needs me to give him medical advice by any means, but he was interested once he saw that I wasn't just trying it for 2 days and was on it for a long ways.
Yeah. And fair enough, because we've all done a lot of different things over the years, I'm sure, and so to find that one thing. But I mean, intermittent fasting has been around for a long time, and, it's just 50 years ago. I'm about to be 49, and just the difference in when I was a kid and when my kids are going to school, the amount of food that's happening is just very, very different. And very few people were overweight. My family was not overweight. I didn't grow up overweight at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been extremely overweight. It's always been 25, maybe 30 pounds post baby weight, you know, like that kind of thing. So I have never had to lose like 100 pounds or anything like that. But I've coached people that have lost that kind of weight, and it's quite doable and manageable and maintainable. So, you know, people should gift that to themselves for sure.
So I'm curious, you've never had to lose, you know, more than 25 to 30 pounds. Is it because you were like me where you constantly lost the same 25 to 30 pounds over and over and over again? Because I would get to that point, lose the weight, gain it again. And I think I could have been severely overweight if I wasn't constantly doing the back and forth thing.
Yeah, I think I had kids pretty early. So I was pretty skinny really as a teenager. And then I had my first baby at 21 and started to gain a little weight after that. And my second baby at 23. And then I was single at the end of my 20s. But like at that time, I could go to the gym and I could cut a bit of food out, and it didn't seem to be a problem. Like I felt pretty good. I don't think I really even weighed myself very much back then. You know, and we're talking pre-internet too. Like, I mean, the internet was there, but like it wasn't there, you know, and I didn't have a phone or anything. Like I wasn't aware of it as much, I don't think. I felt kind of frumpy in my clothes, and I was keenly aware that I was starting to date again, and I'd like to take my clothes off and be okay with it, you know, like that kind of thing. But like, other than that, and then after I had my third baby, my husband's in the military. I was 34. It was quite a different, you know, losing weight at 34 than 23 when you have a baby. My husband was deployed for a long time, and I had these newborn and 2 teenagers. And so I think it was just the stress, and we had moved to somewhere, and I didn't like, he sort of dropped us off and then was deployed. So it was just like this whole like perfect storm. And I that's when I gained a bit of weight, probably the 25 pounds. I was just eating myself happy-ish.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Not really, but it felt good.
Yeah, soothing.
Yeah, soothing, exactly. So, and then after that, I lost the 30 pounds again. And then it was COVID. It was being stuck at home, not being able to do anything, not being able to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it impacted me. And just like many people, more than we even knew, we thought we were okay. And all of a sudden you just realize like, I'm not okay. Like I need to change something here. So that was what it was like for me. And then a lot of the people that I've spoken to and coached and work with have said the same thing. Like, I thought I was doing fine. And then they realized like, oh, I actually wasn't. So it was just probably the long-term pandemic mentality, I guess.
Yeah.
So here
really
I am.
Yeah. Really hard to quantify the effects of something so long and so unplanned. And really, what can you say what those 3 years did? Who knows? A lot.
And watching, and it's probably very different because you're watching TV 24/7, but you're also watching lots of different countries and how they're coping and dealing. And you're like, well, why aren't we doing that? Or why aren't we, you know, like, and like you're comparing and numbers, the stats that we endured. And so, yeah, it impacts your brain, and it definitely impacted mine. And I just started eating again and stopped having the parameters that I had in place for myself where I was fasting, even if it was loose and stuff like that. So now I'm back at it. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little disappointed with my weight loss, because I've only lost 6 pounds in 3 months. Although I do see different things, you know, I kind of want to see it on the scale, you know, and so I will tweak it and do things a little bit different. I am going to remove some carbs and some of the sugar that I've just allowed myself to eat, because you can't just eat everything. And I can still have treats, but they're a treat. Like, you got to put a treat in a treat category, right? Not in a 4 hours of treats. So And so that's, I was mentioning to you that I was in Nashville, but I was only there for 4 days. So the first 2 days I was like eating whatever I wanted. But then in the second 2 days, I was like, that's not feeling so good. So I did clean it up. And especially traveling through the airport, nothing feels better when you're flying and in airports actually to be fasting.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good because you're bored and you want to eat and everybody's eating all kinds of different junky food, to be honest. But in reality, when you're sitting on the plane in a fasted state, you feel a lot better. You're not as stiff and sore. You don't feel bloated, and all of that kind of thing. So I actually felt quite great flying home.
And then you're not trying to balance a meal and a drink in a little teeny weeny box on a flimsy tray. Yeah. You don't have to deal with any of that stuff.
When they came around, I just said, no, thank you. I don't want anything, not even water. I had my water with me and that was it. And so, yeah, just listen to my audiobook and went
awesome.
Home. Yeah.
I do want to back up to one thing. You mentioned you like opening, this is going way back, but your eating window with protein. People always like to know different window openers. Do you have any favorites that are protein based?
I'm quite lazy. So yeah, eggs are pretty good. I actually really like Greek yogurt. I usually get some like frozen strawberries, and I'll put some Greek yogurt and then just leave it on the counter in the fridge for a little while then I have that ready and the strawberries thaw out and it tastes good. And, I just plain Greek yogurt, high fat. And then I know when it's time to open my window, it's all ready to go. And I have that. And what I have found is like, if I had toast and honey, for example, then I was back in the kitchen. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
Okay, now what? So then it's like a bowl of cereal. Okay, now what? And then, but if I have protein, I'm like, okay, I'm good till supper. Or I'm good until whatever is planned for the meal, because I wasn't eating meals. I was really just eating. Oh, and I should have my treat because I have a sweet tooth. And then closing my window and really having probably 4 hours of just pure carbs. And then I was not feeling good. So I realized like, okay, so I need some protein. So yeah, it's usually Greek yogurt with some sort of fruit. It can be scrambled eggs and hot sauce. I love hot sauce.
Oh, yummy.
Or I try to always cook extras so I have leftovers. So if I have chicken or something like that, I might just open with like a little bit of chicken and vegetables.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
Awesome. I always love to get those different favorites from people.
Yeah.
I think I saw actually on your Instagram, and you can, at the end, we'll share your handles, but I saw, what kind of chicken was it? It was bright red. I can't remember. It looked really good. No, but butter chicken is one of my favorites.
But you made chicken all the time.
You made like 3 different types of chicken. I don't know. I was going through your socials before we got on with each other, but one was bright red, and I was like, I need to make that. I need to look that up, but I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember either. Yeah, I probably was some sort of an Indian spice, like tikka masala or tandoori, probably tandoori.
Yes,
yeah,
I think that's what it was.
When I go to Costco, I get the big packs of chicken thighs, and then I usually make some of it into butter chicken, and then like tandoori chicken, and sometimes I'll make. I use a little no sugar maple syrup and soy sauce, and make like a just a little sauce, and I'll put that on the chicken too. So it's just a few different kinds of chicken to have in the fridge. And I'll make a pot of rice. I don't love rice, but the kids do, and my husband does. So they eat all that, and just gives you a few different things. I tend to batch cook because I don't like cooking. So
that's a great idea.
My husband does a lot of the cooking, actually.
Oh,
so
nice.
I eat what he gives me. Yes. So
that's awesome.
I do try to share what I eat because people do like to have ideas. I had a pretty active keto group on Facebook, but it's not very active right now. So people used to share a lot of what they ate too in there. And that was really helpful to the group because then you get an idea of what other people are eating, because you get tired of trying to think of that. I've been a mother for my oldest is 28. I've been cooking dinner for 28 years. I just got so sick of thinking about what to have for supper. I'm sure other mothers can relate to that.
My big problem now is I have a vegetarian, a quasi-vegetarian. My husband won't eat beans, and he doesn't like a lot of different sauces. And now that I fast and I eat one meal a day, I don't really want to be super lenient in like what sounds good to me, and it just makes it hard to please everyone and myself. And I'm like, I keep joking. I'm going to go out to eat every day while you guys are at work and school, and then you guys can figure out your own dinner. That's my current threat.
Well, that threat will probably come true as your kids get older, because as my kids had gotten older, I did the same thing. It was like, okay, I don't care what you want to eat. I don't want to. I know people will say like, well, why are you cooking 3 or 4 different meals? Well, okay, it's the reality of life these days. And I make a salad. I make a base for the salad, and then I cut a bunch of stuff up, and then people can make their own salad because nobody likes the same things. But at least they're eating salad of some sort. And I find the same thing is like, I want to eat what I want to eat when my window's open. That's an exciting time for me. I want to be excited. I want to enjoy it. And when I enjoy it, I can hit that end button on my watch and I'm fine. It's great. So I have prioritized that. And I think moms should do that because we often don't. And we often eat off of our kids' plates. And that's why we're here in the first place, because we're just cleaning up all the stuff. You know? So make what you want and let the other people be uncomfortable.
Well, we do. Last night we had Korean beef bowls. And so I had white rice, cauliflower rice, steamed broccoli, the Korean beef, and then green onion, sesame seeds. So everyone can make it how they want. My vegetarian, of course, leaves the meat off. And then I put so much of the beef on, and my husband puts a little bit, because as much as I love sauce, he uses like the opposite amount. But bowls are what works best in our house because we can all make what we want. But yeah.
And kids love them. They love really assembling their own bowls. Yeah. Bowls have worked well at our house too. So I tend to not like rice. I want my butter chicken over steamed or baked veg. I love baked vegetables. I love, especially it's fall. I'm on the east coast of Canada, so it's like getting chillier. I love a big tray of vegetables in the oven, and then I eat them for days and days to come. So I put them on my salad or under my butter chicken. So it's yummy. Yeah.
That's exactly what I do. Although I am a huge cauliflower rice fan. If I have a good sauce, I don't know the difference. Cauliflower rice under my butter chicken is my go-to.
My husband loves that stuff. I do not. I don't like rice very much. So, but I love cauliflower. Yeah, I eat that like crazy.
Awesome. Well, we will move into my favorite part of the show, the fast food round. Okay, so this is my absolute favorite part, just fun ways to get to know Tressa.
Okay.
What is your absolute favorite drink?
Lemonade.
Lemonade, okay. Just regular yellow coffee. Lemon lemonade.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, coffee always top of the line, but if I had like a cold drink to have, I like lemonade. Yeah.
Yummy. And what is your favorite food?
Chicken. I love chicken.
Okay.
Butter chicken, especially.
Yes.
Spicy. Anything spicy.
I think we could dine together. I'm thinking we like a lot of the same foods.
Yeah.
What is the weirdest food combination that you love?
The weirdest food combination. I mix everything together. So, okay. So one of the things I really love that is probably not popular to other people, but I didn't know this until I moved away from home, is we eat something called cold cannon. And it's actually turnip or rutabaga, as most people call it. Cabbage and potatoes all boiled and then mashed together with butter and salt and pepper on it.
Yeah.
I thought everybody ate that, but then you move away and you're like, people haven't even really heard of that. It must be an Irish kind of dish, but
I was just going to say, is that an Irish dish?
I think so. Yeah. And there's probably many different variations, but that's what my mom made. So
yummy. That sounds amazing. I've made something similar trying to do like a St. Patrick's Day meal. That's why I knew it was Irish but we didn't do when I made it, I didn't do the rutabaga in it, but that sounds really good. It's like a bunch of vegetables, warm.
Yeah, it's fall.
Yeah. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Yes, but not in my house.
Oh, you'll eat it, but you won't order it? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would order it, but nobody else would eat it. So I am
That's how it is in my house too. What's a food that most people love, but you dislike?
Rice.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's an oldie, but like everybody likes tuna. I do not like tuna,
Oh, yeah.
despite growing up on the edge of the ocean. No.
Oh yeah, that's true. If you're on the coast and you don't like I don't like seafood, but I mean, or tuna or fish or anything, but I didn't grow up, on a coast anywhere.
I really don't like fish that much, or fish cakes and all of that kind of stuff that I grew up eating. I'm just tired of it, but I've never liked tuna. When people say, "Oh, I love a good tuna sandwich," I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Pass.
Okay. And if you had the opportunity to plan the perfect last meal, what would it be?
Pork chops and cold cannon.
Yeah.
With a Boston cream pie.
Yum. It took you no time to think of that.
My mom used to let us choose our birthday supper, and even as a kid, that's what I chose. Pork chops.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yum. It sounds delicious. Well, thank you for doing that. Like I said, I never know what people are going to say, so I always love the fast food round. But I want to give you an opportunity. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with listeners?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Keep your head up. Share your story. People are always listening, and just do your best and stop worrying about everything.
Yeah.
Because, just trust the process. Like, I can't acknowledge that enough, is that you have it in you to do. So
awesome. And what are your socials? I will put them in the show notes, but where can people find you? Where's the best way to connect?
So at Mastering Her 40s, FORTIES, is my Instagram and Facebook. And my TikTok, I keep forgetting what it is. I think it's Manifestation Magic.
Magic with a K, right?
Yes. Somehow I named that different than the rest of them, and now I can't remember what it is sometimes. But yeah,
we'll link them below.
Find me on TikTok. Yeah. And,
awesome. Well, Tressa, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm sure listeners will enjoy it just as much.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yep.